Look at all this. Hey, I got you. They think they're expecting food. Shit, we're going to get eaten alive.
Hello, chap.
Glorious, glorious day. Bit windy again today. Anyway, back down. It's bloody freezing. Oh, how you doing? Oh, where am I going to put my cup? My table is full of things. As some of you may know, I go walking, I go hiking every Friday morning, every week, whenever possible. And obviously, I have to plan the route. I have to be prepared because the mountains in the Basque Country are not necessarily very high, but the weather is unpredictable. The conditions can change. Accidents happen. So you have to be prepared. When I go hiking, I always take this backpack, this rucksack. It might seem a bit big because I don't walk for hours on end, normally 3 to 5 hours. But I like to be prepared. So, what goes into my backpack? Beautiful day for walking in the miserable wet rain. The first thing that goes into my backpack is my waterproof. This also acts as a wind cheater, like a last layer if it starts to get cold. That always goes in first. And talking about waterproofs, I might also take waterproof trousers. And I always take my camera, or sometimes I take two. I always take a waterproof hat, thank you Guinness, a sun hat, a normal cap. This one's great because it folds. How about that? A woolly hat, a beanie, is to protect my head and my ears. I take a buff, which normally for my neck, but could also be for my ears. A little towel, a power bank with 2 different cables, paracetamol, plasters, sun cream, hand gel, tissues, my inhaler, got a knife, it's a great little knife, I've got a whistle, a compass, I even have an emergency blanket, but that's just really because it doesn't weigh anything. Why not? I have a walking stick. This is a collapsible walking stick. Absolutely fantastic. A second mobile. This is an old mobile that I use as a GPS device. So I don't have to take my phone out all the time. And really importantly, I take this. This is my water. This is a water bladder. Right, I prefer this than taking a bottle of water. Some fruit and nuts for energy while we're walking. And actually it doesn't weigh too much because most of it is really lightweight. And perhaps the heaviest thing is the water and the cameras. When you go walking, what do you take with you? Do you take all that? Probably not, no. I'm a bit over prepared, but hey, why not? Woohoo! It's a bit windy up here. This week's photo is of a friend of mine arriving at the top, at the summit, at the peak of Amboto, which is one of the highest mountains in the Basque Country. It's 1,301 meters high, so it's not a really big mountain, but it offers an amazing view from the top. And it's really hard work to get to the top and to get back down. It's a steep climb up, and then when you get to what you think is the summit, you then have to scramble a few more meters to the top. And if it's wet, if it's cold, if it's windy, it's not a good idea to scramble all the way up to the top. It's quite dangerous. So this leads to this week's question. What is your responsibility when mountaineering? What are you responsible for? And more importantly, who are you responsible for? Yourself, obviously, but what about the other people who've gone climbing and walking with you? Okay, I think I'm ready to go. The last thing I do is attach my camera to my backpack with this handy clip. Have a great day and happy hiking!
What is your responsibility when mountaineering? Climbing up summits and peaks has fascinated people for centuries, and the risk it involves is undoubtedly part of its attraction. Mountaineers must constantly make decisions about weather, timing, equipment, and their own physical limits. Whether hiking up hills and mountains or scaling snowy peaks, climbers are presented with different levels of challenges and preparation. However, a recent court case in Austria has raised an important question. How responsible are climbers for each other's safety, and when can a bad decision become a legal matter? Climbers will often take unnecessary risks when attempting to scale a summit. Summit fever can override obvious warning signs, such as taking longer than anticipated to complete the route, having limited water supplies, and changing weather conditions. The overwhelming desire to reach the top will drive the climber on. Even though they might finish the climb safely, they will probably admit later that things could easily have ended much worse. It's a severe example of FOMO, fear of missing out. A tragic case did occur recently on Großglockner, Austria's highest mountain. In January 2025, a woman died from hypothermia while climbing the peak with her boyfriend. The man had left her when she hadn't been able to carry on climbing. Even though she apparently agreed to what he did, more than a year later he was convicted of gross negligent manslaughter. The court decided that he hadn't acted with intent to harm, but it concluded that, given his greater experience, continuing to the summit instead of prioritizing safety and immediately calling for help had contributed to the fatal outcome. This case has caused strong reactions in climbing communities. Accidents in the mountains are sadly common, but it is rare for a non-professional climber to face criminal charges after such an event. Many climbers are now asking where personal responsibility ends and legal responsibility begins. One key issue is the difference between guided and non-guided climbs. When people hire a professional guide, it is clear who is responsible for leading the group and making safety decisions. But when friends climb together, the situation is less clear. Mountaineering organizations state that climbers take part at their own risk. At the same time, they encourage climbers to consider the needs and abilities of everyone in the group. Most experienced mountaineers believe that although the strongest or most skilled person may naturally take the lead, every individual must be alert and involved in decision-making. There is an unwritten law: the group must adapt to the pace of the slowest member. This idea connects with what climbers sometimes call alpine divorce, when couples end their relationship after a bad experience, particularly when one person leaves the other behind rather than slow down or turn back. Their desire to complete the route overrules their ethical duty to assist their partner. In Spain, the law offers another perspective through the idea of omisión del deber de socorro, or failure to provide aid. This means that in serious situations, a person may face legal consequences for not helping someone in clear danger, or at least for not calling for urgent assistance if doing so doesn't put the rescuer at risk. This idea fits the debate well. The law should not control every decision in the mountains, but it requires a minimum obligation to act when a life is in danger. And who should pay for a rescue if mountaineers get into trouble and call for help? In Spain, mountain rescues are usually carried out by public emergency services and are normally free of charge. However, several regions allow authorities to charge climbers if the rescue is the result of clear negligence. In the Basque Country, for example, it is possible to charge for rescues when climbers have acted irresponsibly, for instance by ignoring severe weather warnings, entering restricted areas, or failing to carry basic equipment. Some people argue that those who take unnecessary risks should accept financial consequences. Others worry that fear of punishment might stop people from calling for help in time. Despite these discussions, most mountaineers strongly oppose strict government control over who can enter the mountains. They believe that part of the beauty of climbing lies in personal freedom and self-reliance. However, experts agree that many accidents are caused by poor planning, unsuitable equipment, misunderstanding weather forecasts, or choosing routes beyond one's ability. They emphasize the importance of knowing when to turn back. As many climbers say, deciding to stop is not a failure, but a sign of good judgment. The debate raised by the tragedy on Grossglockner highlights a delicate balance. Climbers must accept personal responsibility and consider the safety of their partners. At the same time, over-legalizing access to natural spaces could damage the spirit of mountaineering. It's an activity that will always involve risk, as does participating in any type of sport. But how far should the law go in managing it? Chat about these questions and write down your opinions and ideas. 1. Describe the picture in as much detail as possible. Do you go walking, hiking, or mountaineering? 2. When you take part in risky activities, how much responsibility should you have for others in the group? 3. Have you ever suffered from summit fever or alpine divorce and anxiety caused by FOMO? 4. Should climbers have to pay for their own rescue? In what situations would that be fair or unfair? And what about ambulances when people get injured playing other sports, such as football, basketball, etc.? 5. Describe the natural areas around where you live. Do you visit them? Are they protected in any way?